Dear Diary, this is a story about the corruption of our NYPD and police departments, the corruption of prosecutors, who are the biggest criminals in America. I mean, you could say they're tied with journalists, I suppose. The dishonesty of journalists, how I've had the most fucked up life of all time, and probably a few other categories. This is about my first criminal trial. Now, most people will never be tried by a jury or a judge, and everyone should be. We should do mock trials in high school so everyone can see how completely corrupt the system is. In fact, it's corrupt by design because they want you to appear to have rights so they can say, we're civilized, we're not savages, we have rules of law, but they just don't obey any of their own laws. It's that simple. Much worse. Stalin didn't pretend to have the freest nation on earth. He wasn't half as dirty as America. We're not even remotely a free country. We have almost no rights here, but they just lie every day and repeat the lie every day. My first criminal trial goes back to the 1990s, way back in the time machine, and I still can't believe almost any of it. It's just, every day of my life I can't believe. It's just unfucking fathomable. I was living in a 4-bedroom duplex. I was the leaseholder, and I had a lot of asshole roommates, obviously. I don't know who's worse, men or women. Women are more psycho. Men are bigger slobs. Men are generally more trustworthy, but whatever. Humans suck. You'll learn that the hard way. So one day I was arguing with my roommate, Deanna Leaphart. She was kind of a kooky painter-artist girl. Sadly, I like artists, which is bad because artists are some of the most fucked up people in the world. Dysfunctional. And like most people, she was a slob and a hypocrite and was supposed to take out the trash or something. It was her turn or something. And she flipped out and we had a little argument and that was it. I went back into my bedroom. I started hearing loud hammering and I'm against my bedroom wall thinking, what the fuck? And I jump out into the kitchen and Deanna is smashing one of my paintings in the kitchen with a hammer. Now that's pretty serious. My art is my children. Okay, it's like if somebody took a hammer to your child's head, you'd flip out. So I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I grabbed her arms to get the hammer. And we're wrestling for the hammer for a few moments. And then I tackle her to the floor. And I'm on top of her trying to get the hammer out of her hand so she can't fucking destroy anything else. Fucking psycho. And she's got really strong grip. So finally, after struggling forever, what seemed like forever, I smacked her in the forehead 3 times in a stinging fashion. If my goal was to hurt her, I would have punched her. I smacked her in a way that really, stings the flesh. And smacked her 3 times in the forehead. Because my goal wasn't to hurt her. My goal was to shock her to get the hammer away from the psycho. And it worked. Got the hammer away and went into my room and hid it so she couldn't smash anything again with the hammer. The hammer was hers, I guess, from hammering frames together or something. A few minutes later, whatever, I go in my room, whatever, and I say, you're a fucking psycho, da-da-da-da. 10 minutes later, whatever, the police show up. She called them and said I tried to kill her with the hammer. Now, remember, cops are the most uneducated people in our society, and that's deliberate. They don't want to have educated cops, because if you have educated cops, they're going to question the mission, which is to keep the slaves down. You cannot have educated soldiers. You cannot have educated police. Their job is to be brainless fucking robot soldiers. And that's one of the reasons why our world is a complete fucking disaster. But there's no way the elites can allow educated cops, because educated cops question authority. You can't have soldiers who question authority. They must randomly do whatever you order them without any thinking whatsoever. So Deanna and I both tell the cops our stories, which are almost virtually identical. She admits she introduced the hammer. She admits to smashing my painting. They can see the damage to my painting right there. Our story's the same. She introduced a deadly weapon. She did all kinds of stuff. She was destroying my property, reckless endangerment, whatever. There's criminal mischief. There's all kinds of laws. But the police, being fucking scumbag criminals, she says, no, I want to press charges. And they're like, all right, well, we're going to have to take you in, Christopher. And I say, well, then I want to press charges against her because you've seen it. She admitted it to everything, to cops, and there's the physical evidence. Done. And they said, well, we'll talk about that down at the precinct. Now, there's nothing you can do with cops. You can't reason with a Nazi. There's one way to reason with a Nazi. You put a bullet into their head. You cannot reason with bad cops. And most cops are bad. And I have friends who are cops who are good. And they'll tell you that most cops are bad. This is nothing new. This has been going on for thousands of years. Anyhow, and power corrupts. That means if you're a cop, we have to assume you're corrupt, and we should treat them that way. But let me not digress. This might be a two-parter. This is going to be a doozy. They take us down. Well, I go down the precinct with the two cops down the street, and they, of course, ignore all my requests repeatedly to file charges against her. Now, according to her, she was the main criminal. She started the conflict. She did everything. She was the main criminal, according to her and according to me. Game over. But it isn't when you're dealing with the scumbags of the NYPD. And Giuliani was mayor at the time. So they had Super Hitler as their boss. So it's corruption stacked on corruption stacked on corruption. And they, of course, lied to me. They would not allow me to press charges against her. They fucking lied, as always. I've never had cops not fucking lie to me. When I was the victim of crime, they always lied to me. When I was the alleged criminal, they always lied to me. Same with the prosecutors. Every time I was the victim of serious crimes, the prosecutors lied and cheated. Every time I was the alleged criminal, the prosecutors lied and cheated. I've never seen a prosecutor not lie and cheat, and I've dealt with dozens and dozens. Most people will never deal with these fucking scumbags, so they don't know how these fucking super criminals get away with this shit every day. I then go to jail for a few days. Oh, the story is really worse. Let me digress. Example, Elektra Records, look them up, Google them. Elektra Records, one of the biggest record companies on earth, contacted me out of the blue and said, can we get a copy of your demo, 100 versions of the Immigrant Song by your band, the Liquid Tape Deck? Liquid is silent, though. And I said, how'd you hear about the demo? He said, I read about it in CMJ, National Magazine, that raved about it in their future sections, called it hilarious and brilliant, blah, blah, blah. This was the first demo I'd ever sent out of music. It was a shitty cassette, homemade demo. And yet CMJ had raved about it nationally to all the college radio stations, and Elektra called me out of the blue. And then Geffen wanted a copy too. However, I was legally barred from my own home for 30 days. I had no way of even making them a copy. Barred for 30 days from my own home. And, oh man, there's so many details I could tell you that are horrifying. Example, if I wanted to get my clothing, if I wanted to get anything from my home with my lease, my place, because the cops and this fucking dumb psycho girl lied, I had to get the police to come and escort me. But the NYPD are a bunch of fucking scumbag criminal retards. So I'd call up the precinct and say, hey, can I get some cops to escort me into my apartment so I can get some of my shit? They'd say, no, you got to call 911 for that. I got to call 911 to get a change of clothing? That's fucking insane. You people are fucking... Remember, you can't compare these people to the Nazis. The Nazis were efficient. The Nazis were much more logical, rational, and reasonable. Everything they did served a logical, rational purpose. You can say, well, killing people is barbaric. It is, but it isn't. You say putting down a horse is humane, so you can't have it both ways. Is killing humane or is killing inhumane? Torture is inhumane. And that's what our government does every day to almost all of its people. That's what the police do. Fucking savage, retarded mooks. I had to call 911 to get a change of clothing. How fucking brilliant is that? Even more crazy, 3 police cars show up. And people wonder, oh, America's broke. Well, yeah, we're tight on cash. It's probably the pensions. Yeah, no, it's probably the salaries of the school teachers. No, it's because your government steals all your fucking money every fucking day, and you need to fight back, and you have a right to fight back. Remember, the epiphany I had over the last year. Any American can sue your government for defrauding you of tax dollars, and you can sue the media for defrauding you, helping the government defraud you out of your tax dollars. It's no different than being a stockholder at Enron or anything. These people defrauded you. Now, the American government can't file for bankruptcy to get out of paying you back. So please, people, fight back. Fight back. You were defrauded. It's not legal what what the politicians do to taxpayers. It's not legal what the NYPD does. It's not legal what the press does. They're defrauding you, their customers. That's no different than Bernie Madoff and a lot of the other white-collar criminals who eventually went to jail after the government covered up for them for decades. Back to my story, my tragic, tragic tale. So I couldn't even get demos to Geffen or Elektra. I had to get 3 police cars to come get me a change of clothes, all because the police lied. And so cutting forward, I, of course, they offer you a plea deal. Say you're guilty, we'll give you time served, because they torture you in jail for 2 days or whatever. I don't remember if there was bail in that case or not. Actually, there wasn't bail, I'm pretty sure. And I'm charged with menacing, possession of a deadly weapon, all kinds of horse shit. Because the NYPD is nothing but corrupt. Corruption is a euphemism for the NYPD. People need to wake the fuck up. Prosecutors, they stand for one thing: corruption. And you think I'm exaggerating? Let's debate in public. Let you get 20 expert witnesses to back you up against little old me, and I'll prove that the purpose and intent of prosecutors is corruption. Just like do you still think politicians are honest? Your government is designed to be dirty. It was designed by rich guys to keep rich guys in power, to punish all the middle class and the slaves. That's the purpose of fucking government, to control the slaves, because otherwise we slaves could rise up and fucking kill all the rich, and we'd live in their fucking 25 mansions. We would have all that money. We'd all be living lives that were comfortable and wonderful. That's the purpose of government, to keep the slaves locked down. Anyhow, I'm going to get to, this is really supposed to be about my first criminal trial. I've had 5 criminal trials so far. They were all shocking. You can make horrible, scary Hollywood movies about each one of them. I have 5 more pending right now. The first one was shocking. Now, I lucked out. I had a pretty good legal aid court-appointed attorney named Millie Whalen. She was wonderful. She was kind of cute nerd. I had a little bit of a crush on her. But she was really good. She actually was like fresh out of law school and cared. Because most of them don't give a fuck. Lawyers don't give a fuck about right and wrong. They don't give a fuck about their clients. Shakespeare said it best. Kill them all. And what happened next? Getting my clothes. I don't want to leave anything especially juicy out. So now I'm unlike most defendants. When the DA's charged, when I see what the DA's charging me with, I don't say, oh man, I'm going to prove these guys wrong 2.5 years from now in trial. No, I immediately reach out to them because I'm like, you were lied to, and I can prove you were lied to. You got hosed, so fucking drop these charges and arrest this fucking psycho cunt who smashed my art and did all this other shit. And had possession of a deadly weapon. It says, if you've been hosed, you've been scammed. I incorrectly thought, because I was very young and naive, that the prosecutor would care that he had been lied to, that he had been used. His name was David Green. Scumbag lawyer, assistant district attorney under Robert Morgenthau, one of the biggest criminals in American history. A man who's admitted to framing tens of thousands of innocent men. He's admitted it, and he's not going to prison. Outrageous. So David Green, I reached out to him. I wrote letters to the DA with all the details. Now, that's not normally what a criminal charged with a crime does. He doesn't share all of his information with the DA. So that should have been a tip to them that I wasn't probably dishonest. And I always am begging for my right to a speedy trial. If you're guilty, you're not generally begging for your right to a trial. You hope the trial never happens. You hope they drag the shit out forever. No, I wanted to fucking clear my name immediately. She did eventually have to move out of my apartment, but by then it was too late to get to fucking... It's too many details. Especially with record labels, you got to move fast because there's an A&R guy one day who's signing Guns N' Roses, and then a week later he signs some shitty band, and then he's fired 2 weeks after that. There's a lot of turnover in the major labels. Whatever. My life's nothing but tragedy. So, to my surprise, David Green turns out to be a dirty, dirty, dirty scumbag. And he wants to do everything in his power to fucking railroad me. So it took like over a year to get to trial because I have a right to a speedy trial on misdemeanors. Actually, were they felonies at first? Well, whatever. And my first jury trial was shocking. Wait till you hear some of the funny shit that happened in this motherfucker. I'd never been tried by a jury, didn't know that much about any of it, the whole process. I was a little bit of a rag doll. But I knew this. All the facts backed me up. The photographs backed me up. Everything backed me up. Who knows? Even on the stand, maybe the stupid cops would have admitted, yeah, I did see the smash painting. Because remember, these cops, the cops were dirty, but cops are more stupid than they are dishonest. And I love getting cops on the witness stand. One of the tricks, if you ever tried, one of the tricks you want to use is you do pre-trial hearings. That's where you do the stipulations or whatever, there's all kinds of things. Where you meet in a little room, both sides, and you have a cop testify, and there's a stenographer who writes down everything the cop says. You do this as far before the trial as you can, because cops can't remember their lies. So once it comes time, you make him testify in the trial, he's going to change his story because he can't remember what he said in the deposition 2 months earlier. It's fucking hilarious. And you always want all the cops to testify because they can't keep their stories straight. It's hilarious. In fact, check this out. Just in case you doubt that prosecutors are dirty top to bottom, it came out a month ago, maybe 2 months ago here in New York City in the press, maybe March 2011, that the DAs admitted they were spending millions of tax dollars while we have to lay off school teachers and close firehouses. We have no money, the mayor says, but we're going to pay millions of dollars to the the DAs to have a special training program because cops got caught perjuring themselves in so many trials. Remember, in most trials, police have to testify. And of course, all cops are criminals. So the cops get caught lying. Even when the cops are going after a legitimate criminal, the cops still make shit up. They're trained at the academy to make shit up. The idea is like, well, we're gonna throw on extra frosting on that cake to make sure. We're gonna throw everything we can at the wall, make sure something sticks against this real fucking scumbag. That's great. But then you're helping the scumbag because you're fucking lying, asshole, when you don't even have to lie. You fucking assholes. And lots of real criminals have gotten away because the cops fucking lied. Look at O.J. O.J. Simpson did not get away with murder because his lawyers were good. He got away with murder because the cops got caught lying under oath. And the prosecutors got caught fucking lying to the jury. And the jury said, I think he's guilty maybe, but if he was guilty, why would the prosecutors and the cops lie? Reasonable doubt. He walked. The jury did nothing wrong in the O.J. trial. It was the cops and the prosecutors who should be in prison for helping a murderer get away. Never forget that. Prosecutors are the biggest fucking criminals in the world. So, where was I? Fuck. With the, something about the DA, lying about me, whatever. Anyhow, so the trial lasted like a few days. You pick a jury. My lawyer is like, I don't know if you guys care about this, but I'll add it in here for edification. You get to do a voir dire. Voir dires are a lot of fun. That's where they bring in a potential pool of whatever, 20 jurors, and you got to whittle it down to 8. Sorry about that. My MacBook Pro just stopped itself. Piece of shit. Steve Jobs is a criminal. Don't believe the hype. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. He's gotten caught committing thousands of crimes. He's been caught ripping off hundreds of millions of people. San Francisco Attorney General busted him. Popular Mechanics busted him. I mean, look it up. The iPhone, he got busted for lying about the iPhone, ripping off his customers. He's a fucking criminal. Of course, you knew that because he was a corporate goon. And their job is one thing and one thing only, to get as much money out of your pocket while providing as little service as possible. That's the whole point of capitalism. Duh. So I was saying, having a jury is a blast. We really should. If I had the power, I'd make sure it's taught in all high schools. Everyone must do a mock trial. Everyone. Because people would be stunned. If people found out how our trials work, they would be fucking furious. Trillions of their tax dollars stolen to create a fucking third world farce. I hope my voice isn't too loud here. Shit. I may have this too hot. The voir dire is a blast. You pick a whole bunch of... You got to pick your jurors. In my case, it's 6 jurors plus 2 alternates in case one dies or gets hit by a bus or whatever. And so you interview all these different people, and it's hilarious because, for instance, one of the first things they'll say is, okay, potential jurors, by a show of hands here, how many of you have been the victim of crime? Now, this is New York City, the world capital of crime, no joke. Almost every single hand goes up. Saying, okay, how many of you were satisfied with the police response? How many of you reported it? Almost all of them. And how many of you were satisfied with the police response? Nobody, because the police don't do fucking shit for victims of crime. The police's job is to fucking do their 20 years here and get the fuck out with your pension. To do as little work as possible. Fucking scumbags. And actually, things changed after 95. When Deanna had been falsely arrested, things changed. After that, when it's 2 people, the police try to blow it off, so there's no police report to file because Giuliani and Bloomberg ramped it up and said, listen, we don't care if the person's bleeding to death. Tell them there's no crime and fucking leave it alone. Because no reported crime means we can then say there's a drop in crime. And the newspapers report that like it's fucking true. And that's what Giuliani and Bloomberg did. There's more crime than ever before in New York City. But the media keeps saying there's almost never been less crime. Look at this. There's another drop in reported crime. No shit. And even though they've interviewed hundreds of people who've been the victims of serious crime and it turned out it was covered up, they're still covering it up. That's what the media's job is to do. Yeesh. So, the voir dire is funny. My lawyer's like, we want lawyers, we want people, for instance, so they'll ask potential jurors, what newspaper do you read? And because that matters to certain people. If they read the New York Post, you think they're, the fuck, this pop-up window just popped up, fucking asshole. My lawyer says we don't want people who read the New York Times because they're more prone to have kids and be more uptight. And I said, no, we want anyone who reads the New York Post or the Daily News, because they're poor schlubs who don't trust the government. Or we want anyone who reads the New York Times, etc., because they're educated and don't trust the government. And this case is ridiculous. And whatever, we picked a jury. And then the DA was fantastic, because after he blew me off, I then declared war on this little fucking piece of shit, this scum-sucking fucking scum motherfucker, David Green. Chubby guy with glasses. And I started attacking him in public. I was sending out press releases and stuff to the media, exposing the fucking dirty DAs and the dirty DA tricks and stunts. And he didn't like that, so he was going to get me. And it was great, because it kind of backfired. This guy was like, I'm going to fucking teach this Brodeur, who's this fucking think he is? How dare he fucking criticize me just because I'm his public servant? How dare he criticize his public servant who's cheating the law and the Constitution? And the trial was magnificent. Again, if you ever get the chance, please get the transcripts of all my trials and animate them all of South Park. People will not believe the shit. Wait till you hear some of what happened in this trial. You will not believe the shit. I still don't believe the shit, and I watched it. I'll give you a real nutshell here. Some of the highlights. The DA went overboard trying to vilify me and demonize me to the jury. It was fucking great. And he, example, he was saying, I'm wondering if this was under cross-examination. Remember, this was a long time ago. This was my first trial. All my trials have been retarded, hilarious, and scary. I think I was under or he was telling, first, you do opening statements. He was telling the jury something. He's like, and then Mr. Brodeur hid the hammer. He got the hammer away from Miss Leaphart. And then he hid the hammer in his dirty, dirty bedroom. He said dirty, dirty twice. Oh, there's a sad fact. Even if I go and get the transcripts from the stenographer, if you've ever seen stenography, it's like cave drawings. That's how primitive it is. I'm going to digress here because this is really critical. Court transcripts by stenographers are almost garbage that is worthless. Example, in a later trial, I said, I want to alleviate this conflict. This was between me and my corrupt landlord who ripped me and thousands of other people off. But I was trying to reason with him as a fucking human being to say, listen, I can sue the fuck out of you, etc., or we can alleviate this conflict. The stenographer wrote it down as elevate the conflict. Now, that's kind of a big difference, isn't it? Alleviate versus elevate? They mean the opposite thing. But for all of history now, all that will remain is the court transcripts, which are filled with mistakes, errors, and possibly on a few occasions, because remember, the stenographer is paid for by my enemy. Little conflict of interest there. All kinds of mistakes like that. They reverse who said what. They reverse what you say. They fuck up everything. It's cave drawings. Stenography is cave drawings. And to put it in perspective, to show you what a travesty this is, what an outrageously unconstitutional travesty this is. In the housing courts, remember, we're talking about criminal court. In the housing courts, where you're arguing with landlords and stuff and their lawyers over housing, they audio record all the court proceedings. There's microphones, and they record everything. Tell me why they can have tape recordings in housing court that are a lot more accurate than cave drawings by stenographers, and they can't have them in criminal court where people are being framed every day, and their appeals are based often on the transcripts that are inaccurate. The entire system is fucking garbage, and no one cares. Ouch. And when I tried to report this, most reporters cover the shit up. Unbelievable. Apple products are such garbage. Froze on me again, but I was able to save it. But what's amazing is I'm looking at the two sections previously recorded just now. One has sound waves that look like they're maxing out. The other one has no sound waves. Now, lucky for me, that's just a visual glitch because Apple can't get anything right. And the sound waves are there because I just played back. But there's no sound wave. It's a flat line. Because, you've got to understand. Apple doesn't have that much money to have programmers do things correctly, right? Ones and zeros, that shit is hard. It's hard to program a visual to match the sound. I know it is. It's real tough. Especially when you only have billions of dollars to get it right. Yeah, it's tough. No, you have a right to kill any fucking CEO you fucking meet. Self-defense. These people destroyed our world, destroyed our lives, killed fucking untold numbers of people. You have a right to self-defense. Let's get back to my horrendous trial. From my first criminal trial ever for allegedly trying to kill my roommate with a hammer. Oh, well, wait, I am going to do, even though I shouldn't, let's do it. End of part 1. Part 2 will be much shorter because there's not that much left. But I don't want this to be retardedly long. End of part 1. Now wait, it's going to get funny and stupid, so don't tune out, kids. What you're about to hear is some funny shit from the actual trial.